But I didn't like his predecessor. I didn't like a person that worked for. She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person. And she really hurt that deal very badly because she tried to take advantage of the deal and she didn't get away with it. You know what I'm talking about.
Donald Trump met with Mark Carney today, and it was even more of a disaster than I thought it was going to be. Holy crap. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, follow, like, comment your thoughts down below. I have a feeling you're going to have a lot of them after today's episode. In other news, Pierre Poilievre made his first appearance to the media since the election. We're also going to be breaking down all of the most shocking moments from Donald Trump just cleaning the floor with Mark Carney. Oh my gosh. If we have time, we're going to get into Danielle Smith and her address to Albertans as well as the federal government yesterday, which was really, really awesome, among many other things. All that and more coming up today on Over Opinionated.
I forget about political stripes, by the way. We have a prime minister down there, and he's going to be sitting down, and he's going to give it everything he can. This is a time to unite the country, not people saying, oh, I'm leaving the country, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You know, united we stand, divided we fall.
Last night, Doug Ford went off about Danielle Smith. He went off about the U.S. Seriously, listen to this.
I can't wait for the midterms. Then we'll fix his little red wagon. Anyways, and the economic uncertainties created on both sides of the border already having a direct impact on our province and our workers. Many problems are because of the chaos coming from south of the border.
You just shouldn't lie. You know, it's really good to be grounded in reality. Even when reality goes against your narrative, it's important to acknowledge that it is the fact. Our problems are not due to south of the border. Yes, it is an annoyance from, or especially for certain industries, from Donald Trump, but that's not where our problems come from. Our problems come from mass government overreach, mass government overspending, shutting down pipelines, having resource blocking, industry disturbing bills that get passed all in the sake of we're going green, even though there's no research at all to show that that's going to be successful. In fact, quite the opposite. Our problems are due to a bad, failed government of which they use Donald Trump in order to fearmonger and get people to vote Mr. Carney back in. But it is not based in reality whatsoever. And wow, are you ever going to notice that here? Actually, you know what? Just for funsies, I created this little compilation of one of Mark Carney's speeches that he gave prior to winning the election compared to Donald Trump in his meeting today. We're going to dive deeper into it because these are just short clips. But just look at this because it is so unbelievably jarring.
I don't think we can change Donald Trump. I don't think so. Not at this stage.
Get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
And a person who draws his inspiration from President Trump, like Pierre Poilievre, will kneel down before him.
You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world.
Before he stands up to him. He's in sync with President Trump.
I thought you were excellent, and I think we have a lot of things in common.
Pierre Poilievre is also choosing to be willfully blind to the many and growing threats that face our country.
We don't really want cars from Canada. And we put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things.
What the big companies are producing, by and large, are not products that we are consuming. There's some element of that, but by and large, you know, a steel company, how much steel are you using these days, Todd? I mean, not as much we used to. So anyway,
Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I mean, I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, I mean, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But, it's not fair.
I actually think more angry today than I was on election night over this, because it's just so in your face at this point. Before it was like, I know that this is happening because I'm not an idiot, but it's not like really forced upon me until, of course, Mark Carney meets with Donald Trump and you're like, yes, okay, great. So I told you so. The wool was pulled over your eyes and our country is doomed. That's how it feels right now, given how this conversation went. And I first want to point you to this, okay? And just don't forget that just a few weeks ago, like a week ago, Mark Carney was saying, our relationship with the United States is over. It's over. Yeah, we're going to be an economic superpower. I haven't told you how yet, but it's going to happen. Trust me, bro. And then he says this: I've arrived in Washington ahead of my meetings with President Trump tomorrow. Canada and the United States are strongest when we work together, and that work starts now. Huh. Weird, because you told me that our relationship with the United States was over and that we didn't need them and that we should hate Donald Trump because he's the reason for all of our problems. Huh.
Are you optimistic? Can we make a deal with Canada?
I think it's really complex. I think this is really complex because they have been basically feeding off of us for decades upon decades upon decades, right? They have their socialist regime, and it's basically feeding off of America. I mean, the president calls that out all the time. Why do we make cars in Canada? Why do we do our films in Canada? Come on. So I think the president's going to have, I think it's going to be a fascinating meeting. I'm glad I'm going to be there listening, but it's going to be a fascinating meeting tomorrow. I just don't see how it works out so perfectly.
But hey, everybody, elbows up, right? Oh, wait. But Mike Myers was actually just listed as one of the first names in the Diddy trial. So do we put our elbows down now?
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. As you know, just a few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada. And I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take full credit. His party was losing by a lot, and he ended up winning. So I really want to congratulate him. It was probably one of the greatest comebacks in the history of politics, maybe even greater than mine. But I want to just congratulate you. That was a great election, actually. We were watching it with interest, and I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person, because we spoke before the election quite a few times. And it's an honor to have you at the White House. But I just want to congratulate you, and ran a really great race. I watched the debate. I thought you were excellent, and I think we have a lot of things in common. We have some tough points to go over, and that'll be fine. We're going to also be discussing Ukraine, Russia, the war, because Mark wants it ended as quickly as I do. I think it has to end.
That's quite the praise for a man who Mark Carney told his entire base. The mainstream media told everybody who would listen, and social media campaigns also reiterated, how bad Donald Trump is. He's so scary. Oh no, he's so bad. But then there's Donald Trump saying he and Mark Carney have a lot in common, and that, he knows that it was his interference that caused Mark Carney to win. And you just see Mark Carney so weaselly there. And that gets so much worse.
Musing about making Canada the 51st state. So what did Trump do? Exactly that, because he sees in that an advantage when he's going to start negotiating with Canada. So it's pure Trump. I mean, He's the guy. I mean, he's been convicted 34 times of criminal offenses by the American courts, lifelong con artist and storyteller and prevaricator. And so he's going to continue playing that sort of game. Now, the problem for Trump is he wants a new deal between Canada, U.S., and Mexico, but he's the one who wrote and signed the last deal that he's no longer respecting. So at some point, being Donald Trump has a downside, which is nobody can make a deal with you because you're just a pathological liar and you don't respect your own signature on the existing trade deal. Carney's in a tough spot. because, of course, he had said exactly what I just quoted before, but he has no choice. He was elected on a promise to be able to deal with Trump and with the United States under Trump. It's going to be a tough meeting, as Carney has already pointed out, but I think that Mark Carney has probably dealt with much more serious issues over time. And
I don't know. Everybody said that Mark Carney was strong, right? Yeah, he was super strong and powerful. Turns out that's not the case at all.
We do have a negotiation coming up over the next year or so to adjust it or terminate it.
Mr. President, I'll say a word on USMCA, if I may, Mr. President. It is a basis for a broader negotiation. Some things about it are going to have to change. And part of the way you've conducted these tariffs has taken advantage of existing aspects of USMCA. So it's going to have to change. There's other elements that are come, and that's part of what we're going to discuss.
Right.
During the campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American betrayal. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And usually those things don't last very long. You know, we have great things, great product. The kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell, including military. Look, we make the best military equipment in the world, and Canada buys our military equipment, which we appreciate. But we make the best military equipment in the world by far. The missiles, the submarines, everything we have is really top notch.
So clearly this isn't just about renegotiating USMCA or even doing it earlier, as Donald Trump signaled there. And this is definitely about, I don't know, either Canada becoming the 51st state or perhaps Canada addressing the issues of which these tariffs are imposed anyway. That's the thing. So many people, and if I'm wrong on this and I'm just like fired up and saying it, let me know. But to my knowledge, Donald Trump says, y'all have a crisis at your border. Y'all have a crisis, you know, when it comes to DRUGs in your country. You have a big problem when it comes to your military. We want all of that fixed. And Canada responds by saying, we're not really going to do any of those things, actually. What we're going to do instead is just like totally smear you and your country and like just blow this out of proportion so we can win the election. And it's weird. Like, remember how they got that new like border czar? Whatever happened to that guy? I haven't heard a single report about all the hard work he's been doing. Mark Carney didn't even include anything to the effect of meeting Trump's demands, which are valid and fair, regardless of the percentage difference between Canada and Mexico, by the way. But we didn't hear any of that at all. He was not elected on fulfilling the promise. He was elected on the lie that he is a strong, powerful economist who's going to be so great for Canada. But if Canada had actually addressed the concerns of Donald Trump, i.e. the border, could Donald Trump, to my knowledge, couldn't legally justify these tariffs anymore. There's a loophole in there which allows him to justify them. If we corrected that, he couldn't do that. Am I wrong? That's my best knowledge on the situation, and nobody is talking about that.
Tariff in Canada, is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
And remember when all of the liberals, Mark Carney included, said, oh, Pierre Poilievre and the conservatives, they're just like Trump. Oh, they're going to kneel before Trump. Oh, they're going to kiss the ring. Mark Carney's not going to do that. He's a world-renowned economist. So says the first page of Google at the very least. Well, turns out that too was a lie.
Mark, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat, actually, for the big announcement. But thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president. The focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected with my colleagues here, with the help of my colleagues here. I'm going to spread the credit to transform Canada with a similar focus on the economy, securing our borders, again on fentanyl, much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic and developing the Arctic, And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I look forward to, addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can move forward.
Notice how every single one of those talking points was one of the conservatives' talking points that they were actually using during this election, versus being Mark Carney and only saying things like, Donald Trump wants to own us. Canada is not for sale. Look at how the Canada is not for sale conversation went down here with Donald Trump. And more importantly, how pathetically weak and embarrassing for our nation, like completely unrespectable, Mark Carney handled Trump's response.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the president just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the president has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
True. And they have, I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because Mark knew, they were low, and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.
What on earth was that? That is literally like a very weak man who is so nervous, so uncomfortable, so screwed, really, trying to are you kidding me? And for a man who talked a very big game over the last few weeks, I am so strong. Me, Mark Carney. Mark Carney will take on Donald Trump. Fee, fi, fo, fum. Look at him here. How silently, he sits listening to Donald Trump talk about the Canadian economy and essentially how he's going to obliterate it. And do you want to know why Canada doesn't have any footing here? Because the Liberal government that you Canadians who voted for them just re-elected put us inside of this vulnerable position again. Canada would not be in this position if it were not for all of the horrendous bills that have been passed, all of the stupid things our money has been spent on.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation. But we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And
what is Canada doing, by the way? We're handing out subsidies and grants for EVs. That's what we are doing to compete with this? Huh. Alrighty.
We, because of, past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. I assume they can. I will tell you that Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said, that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year.
What is with this like self-soothing, rocking back and forth motion? What is this? This is strength to you, liberal Canada? This is what strength looks like? Are you serious?
We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But, it's not fair.
But hey, don't worry, Team Canada, because David Eby pulled off, Republican state liquor off of the shelves, and we're going to stop buying American things. Oh yeah, cancel your trips. Oh, it's going to hurt them so bad.
How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%, and usually those things don't last very long. We have great things, great product, the kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell.
Like, I don't care whether or not you like Donald Trump. I don't care at all, actually. That's fine if you don't like him. But please come back down to earth here. Canada is not going to become an economic superpower unless the conservative policies to repeal all of those nonsense bills that have put us in this vulnerable position to begin with actually happens. And do you want to know who's going to do that? A conservative government. Do you want to know who was going to do that? The conservative government under Pierre Poilievre, not the baby daddy of net zero, carbon credits, ESG, DEI, the man who has literally made millions of dollars off of effectively changing government policy so that his investments pay off. That's why Mark Carney is doing this. Allegedly. It is not because he wants to save Canada. It's not because he knows how. It's not because he is able to pull off any of the things that he claims he can. It's because he is now the policy maker. Sounds like a pretty good deal, doesn't it? When you're somebody who benefits and enriches themselves off of changing policies, and now you are the policy maker. The only good thing that came out of today is the fact that Pierre Poilievre is back. And Canada, maybe, thanks to this absolute disaster of Mark Carney and Donald Trump, where, yep, still 51st state, and yep, there's no new negotiations happening. I guess Trump really wasn't lying yesterday when he said, I don't know why Mark Carney wants to come here, because by all accounts, as it stands right now, nothing has changed. Nothing at all. And we all knew that that would happen because there's nothing that the Liberals can do to actually help our economy, since their entire economical projects and ideology is based off of a fantasy and a theory that has failed everywhere else. It's been implemented and failed here in Canada, where we were used as a test subject. So maybe, just maybe, never say never, right? Pierre Poilievre will actually be able to call an election sooner than later.
Obviously, we didn't come out on top, and that's disappointing, but there is a lot to be thankful for. We've massively expanded our party, 2.3 million votes, 25 more seats, big gains in Ontario, British Columbia, some more modest gains in Quebec, a very powerful and re-energized Conservative coalition led by young people, workers, new immigrants, entrepreneurs, big breakthroughs in manufacturing communities across the country. We're very thankful for that and very excited by the fact that we've been leading the charge on and leading the debate in this country, whether on the carbon tax, inflation, housing costs, crime, drugs. It's been Conservatives who've been leading and winning the debates, but there's more to do. We have to enlarge our team, grow our support, build on our caucus strengths. I'll be thanking them for their hard work, thanking our volunteers, our activists, our team. Obviously very thankful to the people of Carleton for the 2 decades I had the privilege of serving them. We have a path back into Parliament which will allow me to hold the government to account, continue to lead on the same files so that we can pursue our mission, which is to give people back control of their lives.
I had wanted to talk a lot about Danielle Smith and what she said yesterday. If there's time, I don't know, who knows what the news cycle is going to do. I have a feeling CBC is going to tick me off later tonight, and that might end up taking up tomorrow's show. But I do plan to discuss that at length because it was very, very good. So stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. And I ask now more than ever before, clearly, we need you. We need your help. We need you to say what you think. We need you to be honest and truthful and not worry about the backlash. We need you to know that if you are scared to speak up against how crazy this is in your workplace, in your friend group, with your family, and you're hiding how you feel, and you're hiding the truth that you know from doing your research, unlike other people in your life who perhaps don't, and they just like doom scroll on Facebook, all this anti-Trump, anti-Polyev, anti-conservative stuff that isn't real, that is nonsense, that is literally only out there as a way to win elections, and it worked. So we really need you to know that you have friends in us, you have community in us. There's not a lot of us who are out on platforms like this speaking loud and proud about being a conservative and the benefits of that for our country, but you are absolutely not alone. And if you ever, feel scared or silenced or need help with a response back to a stupid comment, you have friends in us. You do. I can tell you that full-heartedly, that every single creator that you watch who's talking about this stuff is rooting for you and supports you. And of course, show your support in any way you can, not just with me, with everybody else who you consume as well, with liking their videos. That helps them go out in the YouTube algorithm, with sharing their content when you can, talking about it, tagging people in it, commenting, and also subscribing and following them, because I am so terrified that we are all going to be absolutely screwed the second that Mark Carney brings the intended Bill C-63, among others, into the House. And I'm terrified that he's going to have the support to do that with either the Bloc or the NDP. So I don't know. God be with you. Thank you so much for being with me. It is such an honor to talk with you and have these conversations. And I will be back with you tomorrow.